nobody fucking with me. Yeah, I'm about to go be Stipe. Yeah, moving up to heavyweight. Yeah, and I am destined to be great. Yeah, and if you didn't know, they call me DC. And there's no one that you know that can beat me. Yeah, I fought John Jones, but was he clean? I don't think so. What's in that PP? Steroids, cocaine, probably weed. Testosterone, dick pills, and speed. And shrooms, and pills, and codeine. Goddamn, John turned into a dope fiend. And Stipe's about to turn into a folding chair. When I fold him up, I'ma win 2 belts and hold them up. On my champ shit, Conor knows what's up, little bitch. Niggas been counting me out, he back on them picos, but I didn't need those to get here, I'm still gonna beat your ass. I hit you like Kobe, hit a free throw splash. I hit you with the boat, then a knee and a jab. I'll get you by your throat, when I squeeze you gon' tap. I ain't with all the social media cap. You and I both know when we meet, we gon' scrap. At UFC 235 I will probably get punched up in my grill. But either way, you and me both know eye pokes and picos don't make you go. At UFC 235 I will probably get punched up in my grill. But either way, you and me both know eye pokes and picos don't make you go. Astro. My weight is down, got cardio. That's how you already know the snake is here and about to take another motherfucker's belt. Make him feel some shit that he ain't never felt. I tried to warn him. I tried to warn him. Yeah. Give it to him like a give and go. My weight is down, I'm in sicko mode. Hold up, TJ, I'ma shut that shit down. Cause you can't fuck with me at 125 pounds. I just came off a win over the GOAT Mighty Mouse. Ain't no way you can win, can't nobody stop me now. Give me my belt, I'm gonna stop him in the first round. And if I can't stop him, I'll take him down over and over. Do what I gotta do to win the round. If I gotta wrestle, I'ma get him down and hold him down. If I gotta strike, I'ma punch this nigga in his mouth. If I gotta choke him, I'ma gone ahead and choke him out. Either way, I'm about to show him where I'm at, pound for pound. Give me respect, give me my check. January 19th is going down. Yeah, they wishing, they wishing, they wishing, they wishing, they wishing on me. It's Tony time, bitch, I don't care who's fucking with me. Staying away from tiramisu's a struggle for Khabib. You don't wanna fight, you wanna cuddle with me. My elbows are knives and I'ma cut you with these. I don't really give a fuck who's with me. If this fat fuck will make weights a big mystery. If you were smart, then you would probably pick me. To submit Habib at UFC 223. To submit Pettis at UFC 229. Tony time. Tony time. I knock out, sometimes I choke. I might be the lightweight GOAT. If my leg didn't get broke, would've probably beat Khabib. Then moved up and fought with Lee. Either wait for GSP. You don't wanna mess with me. Tony time. Tony time. I knock out, sometimes I choke. I might be the lightweight GOAT. If my leg didn't get broke, would've probably beat Khabib at UFC 223. Then moved up and fought with Lee. Either wait for GSP.
What is going on, full-time family? It is time to start the show. This show isn't really about anything in particular, but at the same time, it is about everything. So walk with me. I'll be your host today, Full-Time MMA, and we're going to be talking about a lot of upcoming fights. We're going to be talking about a lot of the news going on and this weekend's past fights. Poirier versus Holloway 2, Adesanya versus Gastelum. What an insane weekend of fights. But we've also got some potential matches that could be made or might not. For instance, Israel Adesanya versus John Jones. The fuck are we talking about? Adesanya is a smaller middleweight, right? John Jones, 205, talking about going up to heavyweight. So it doesn't seem like it might get to it doesn't seem like a fight that might be put together or one that we've even thought about. We haven't thought about, what about Israel Adesanya versus John Jones? But after Israel Adesanya's performance against Kelvin Gastelum, him and John Jones have been going back and forth on social media, different interviews, and looks like we might have a little bit of a fight brewing between these guys. Now, which weight class would it happen? No idea as of right now, but it's still fun to think about. So we're going to see that a little bit about that back and forth. We're going to cover that. And then we'll talk a little bit about a potential matchup between those guys. Also, another fight that I wanted to talk about that I don't know if it's going to be made. A lot of people would like to see it. It has been scheduled. Now it's not. Could have something to do with USADA. Maybe not. Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. We're going to talk about that fight as well, or the fight that might not happen. And some of the weird news that's been surrounding that whole fight. I mean, we've had each one of them allegedly hasn't been facts. USADA doesn't announce violations. But Yoel Romero actually went on a show, Ariel Helwani's MMA show, if I'm not mistaken, and this was a couple months back. And when Paulo Costa was pulled out of their fight, he was originally under the impression that it was because Paulo Costa failed a USADA drug test. That was Yoel Romero's original statement. He said that's what he heard. Now, he did come back since then and retract that statement. Yoel Romero came back and said, whoa, that's just what I heard. Sorry, it's not official. He probably didn't fail a USADA test. Now, that could be for whatever reason, but Yoel Romero did retract that statement. Now, with USADA having these new EPO tests, or now that they're finally testing for EPO, whichever one it is, either they're testing it at a higher level now and they can detect microdosing EPO, or for some reason they weren't testing for it in the past, which would make no sense. And that's coming from UFC President Dana White. He said, I'm paying these guys, talking about USADA, a lot of money, and they just got a new deal. They recently just got a new deal right after the whole John Jones cooperation debacle. USADA got a new deal with the UFC, and they're making even more money, if I'm not mistaken. And with that being said, Dana White said, I'm paying these guys a lot of money, and they're not testing for EPO? That's weird. What? Like, you hear about people popping for diuretics and fucking IVs. You hear about people popping for non-steroid, non-performance-enhancing drugs all the time. Technically, they enhance your performance, but when you think performance-enhancing drugs, you think the shit that makes you better, stronger, faster. You're thinking steroids. You're not thinking the dietary, supplements, or you're not thinking about the estrogen blockers. Like, those come with, steroid use a lot of the time, but that's not, when you think PEDs, you're thinking about EPO and fucking clomiphene and this high dollar illegal shit that you would think there's no way that's getting through the system. So come to find out, we've got a champion in TJ Dillashaw who hasn't been getting tested for EPO. So now he fails a drug test, and they go back and test his other samples. Oh, turns out there was EPO in the December test too. What? You got champions fighting with fucking EPO out here, dog? What's the point in USADA? So you can't use an IV? So you can't rehydrate? I would rather you test for EPO than keep people off of IVs. One of these is not like the other. Like, yes, IVs can be used to mask steroids, and that's why they banned them, because it can be used to mask substances. But it's also used for a whole lot of good. IVs help fighters rehydrate properly after tough weight cuts. It helps them rehydrate to healthy levels to where you feel a lot better for your fight. Man, I killed myself during the weight cut, but at least I got this IV to help rehydrate me and get fluids back in me. So when they banned the IVs, it made it harder to cut weight. Why would you want to make that harder? You're worried about IVs and this shit when you got fucking EPO over here, dog? Yeah, EPO over here just sitting in a champion's test. Like, TJ Dillashaw's December test had EPO in it this whole time. You're USADA, you're testing for all of these IV injections and dietary supplements and estrogen blockers, and EPO is not there? So that's bullshit already, just a little bit, because if they just weren't testing for it or they couldn't detect microdosing levels, that would make a lot of sense. If you got a new test, now this new test can detect microdosing levels of EPO. We couldn't detect it before. That would make a lot of sense. And if that is the case, which is allegedly, we had someone come and tell our channel that is the case. They work for the VADA and USADA labs. They didn't give us their name because that would be crazy just to go to a random person. Hey, my name is John Doe and I work for USADA. Here's some information that can get me fired. Yeah, that wouldn't make much sense for them to just put their name out there. But the information they gave us did make a lot of sense. And that information was that now USADA has new tests to detect microdosing EPO. And my question is, okay, and even if that's not the case, even if for some reason they were just forgetting to test for EPO, whatever they're doing now to detect the EPO in TJ Dillashaw, there should be a lot more fighters falling from. EPO, TJ Dillashaw is not the only fighter that was using this at all, not even close. TJ Dillashaw is only one of the fighters that casual fans assumed was on steroids. Casual fans used to say he doesn't pass the eye test, talking about TJ Dillashaw. But you cannot accuse somebody of being on steroids if they've never failed a drug test. And so that's why even though you look like you're on steroids, it's not fair to say that you are. So now that it comes proven that he actually was on performance-enhancing drugs, what about all these other guys that don't pass the eye test? Are they going to get tested for this new EPO test? Because I would be shocked if they don't fail it. Any of your favorite fighters, and you wonder, how is his physique so good? How does he fight in 5 rounds at 40 years old? You might wonder if they were able to beat the system. We had a conversation on the panel. We're not going to go that far into it, but I will say this. I expect a lot more fighters to fall. If you've got a new EPO test or you're just now testing for EPO, you're probably going to catch a lot of people. If it's only TJ Dillashaw, that would be a little interesting to me. I don't know how that would be the case. You had managers, I believe Ali Abdelaziz, right? Was it Ali who came out and said he knows 5 other fighters that are on EPO? Ben Askren called him out at the press conference. Hey, Dana, Ali said he knows 5 fighters using that stuff. Can we go see which 5 fighters he's talking about? Because you got to keep in mind, this ain't putting a basketball through a hoop. This ain't hitting a baseball out the park. This is hitting somebody's fucking head until they're unconscious. There's a little... Come on. People vilified Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire, like these baseball players that took steroids so they could hit a bat and make the game more entertaining. Like, it's one thing if you're hitting a bat and making the game more entertaining. But these dudes are licensed to legally assault people, and of course in the octagon, not, innocent people, but they're licensed to assault each other. If I get to fight you, that's dangerous already. How dangerous is it if you get a fucking performance-enhancing drug and I don't? That shit is a whole nother level of sinister almost. The fact that you get turned into a villain for hitting a baseball with steroids. What happens when you're punching people in the fucking face and kicking them in the head with steroids? That don't fly. Then not if it's not a level playing field. And not if you've got USADA that's testing the shit out of, I guess, whoever they want. Because why were you not testing TJ for everything already? Why are you not testing Paulo Costa for everything? Yoel Romero for everything? Any past offenders? I mean, if you're USADA, I mean, casual fans have an eye test, right? Me and you can look at a couple guys and go, USADA specializes in this shit. Come on, man. So all I'm saying is, what if I wanted to be a fighter? And Brendan Schaub said this himself on his podcast. He said the only reason he wasn't taking some of this stuff is because he couldn't afford it. That is not a level playing field. How the fuck does a Brendan Schaub or anybody that wants to be a fighter make it to the top? Unless you already got big money behind you so they can pay for your fucking EPO shit? Like, what? That's not a level playing field, and it kind of muddies the waters for me. So, unfortunate situation there. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later in the show. We're going to talk about BJ Penn is in the news, unfortunately. He had a fight scheduled with Clay Guida coming up at UFC 237, and it's still on as of right now, but he's unfortunately in the headlines for the wrong reasons, so hopefully the fight stays intact. But I'm even more hopeful he gets his situation handled and taken care of responsibly. So, with that being said, let's pull up the chat, see who's in the building. We got Stamina MC Cam Murphy, Mr. Perfect 2005, CSH Combat Sports made it to UFC Yankovic. Holy snaps. What's going on, coach? Giving SureName. That's my hot take. Max didn't change his body at all for the move up. Yeah, no, I agree with you, but that's not really a hot take. You know, in my opinion. I was under the impression that he was bulking up for lightweight. I think, there's been talks of Max Holloway being big enough for lightweight forever. He didn't need to change his body because he was already too big. They say Max Holloway walks around at like 190. It was just a matter of kind of cutting less weight. I mean, there's already been talks of health scares with Max Holloway fighting at featherweight. Oh, was it the weight cut? Was it a concussion? Was it this? Was it that? No one really knew. Max Holloway himself has shown interest in going up. He said, I'm a big boy and I'm only getting bigger. So I didn't look at Max Holloway as like trying to put on weight to go up a new weight class and make the unthinkable happen, kind of like Amanda Nunes versus Cyborg. I look at that a little different. Max Holloway is always a dude that's been big enough, entertaining the idea of fighting at lightweight. I mean, but yeah, I don't think he was trying to change his body. So, it is what it is. Stamina MC, London calling. Kim Jong Uzi says, I'm here. Crazy fights last week, I swear. Let's go. Hassan Mosmir says, what up, big full-time? Not much. What's going on, Hassan? Costa is defo on them, says Cam Murphy. I mean, that is so interesting, right? And you say that, and it makes me... It's crazy, right? Because we know USADA has a new policy. They're not going to say when someone fails a drug test. They will not say it. What is weird to me, what is the UFC going to do? Like, hypothetically, let's just pretend that Paulo Costa failed a drug test. Let's pretend. It's not hard to pretend that. Let's pretend. And he doesn't want to announce it, right? Like a Sean O'Malley or somebody that just took that shit on the chin and said, hey, I don't know what's going on. They're telling me I failed a drug test. I'm going to let you guys know what's going on. And they're open with their fans. Now, what happens if a guy doesn't want to be as forthcoming? They don't want to hear the, ha, I told you so. You're a champion. There's not much you can do about it. I'm going somewhere with this question. Like TJ Dillashaw, perfect example. How the hell does the UFC not announce him failing a drug test or USADA? How do you strip him, guy, if you can't announce why you're stripping him? Yeah, we're going to take TJ's belt. We can't tell you guys why, though. What? Undisclosed reasons. Oh, okay. Like, so if you're a champion, it's almost like you have to reveal it anyway, or you're just going to lose your belt for undisclosed reasons. Now, if you're someone like a fighter that wouldn't want that out there, like I said, we're pretending and using Paulo Costa for an example, not to paint any cast any aspersions on Paulo Costa. I mean, Yoel Romero actually did say in an interview that the reason Paulo Costa was not fighting him is because he failed a drug test. Now, he retracted that statement, but he did make the statement originally. Now we don't know, but it's fair to speculate. But, okay, so let's say, what if Paulo Costa did? What happens? Is it just dead silence? Hey, Paulo Costa, we want to see you fight. What's up? What does the UFC do? Just not book him in fights? Like, and I say that because he was booked to fight. Paulo Costa was booked to fight Yoel Romero, got taken off. Is it an injury? We don't know. I mean, but you can now, with this new USADA rule, you speculate. Is it an injury? Well, why aren't you fighting yet? How bad is the injury? Like, do you have to have a picture of every injury to believe it now? And then now, let's move past that. Paulo Costa was supposed to fight Yoel Romero. He's out of the fight for, let's say, for an injury, even though with this new USADA clause, we got no idea. Now, Yoel Romero is supposed to fight Jacare. Now, Yoel Romero gets pulled from that fight 3 weeks in advance for an illness. I mean, I'm an MMA fan. You guys are MMA fans. When's the last time a fighter got pulled from a fight 3 weeks away for an illness, especially a big fight? We've seen fighters fight through staph infection. We've seen fighters fight 3 weeks after they got dropped and choked out and passed, even when the medicals. We've seen fighters fight when they're not medically cleared to fight. We've seen fighters fight through staph infection. But there's an illness that has Yoel Romero out of his fight 3 weeks later. What is it? So, and then you get rumors that allegedly Yoel Romero failed the same test as TJ Dillashaw, allegedly. But it wouldn't be hard to believe. You're telling me USADA's just now testing for EPO? They might catch all these dudes. But they can't announce it. And the UFC won't announce it. But there are rumors and reports that Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero is still being targeted for some date in the future now. So first they were supposed to fight. Paulo got pulled. The date wasn't right the first time. Then they were supposed to fight, and Paulo got pulled. So now Yoel's got a new opponent. Now Yoel gets pulled from that fight. Now Paulo Costa and Yoel are supposed to be fighting again. What the fuck is going on with Paulo Costa and Yoel? I got no clue, man. Hopefully we get some clarity soon. But with that being said, that's my thoughts on Paulo Costa and Yoel Romero. I don't know what's going on. It would be an amazing fight as far as the matchmaking is concerned. It's a fight a lot of people would love to see, but will it happen? Is it more like Ferguson versus Khabib? Is it just doomed coincidentally? Like, does it have nothing to do with USADA? How crazy would it be if these guys, it has nothing to do with USADA? Paulo Costa, Yoel, neither one of them ever failed a test, despite the rumors, despite the allegeds. Neither one of them ever failed a test. It's just an illness and an injury. It could be something that simple. That's kind of crazy. Poirier versus McGregor. I haven't talked about that at all in the intro or anything. Poirier versus McGregor. That's not a fight that's announced or nothing like that. But it's a fight that makes a lot of sense to me. And with that being said, let me light my blunt. Because I was supposed to like 20 minutes ago. Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2. We all know Conor McGregor wants that title fight. And supposedly with Khabib. I don't know if he really wants that, but he does want his title back. Poirier versus McGregor. Right now at lightweight, we've got a real situation of, even though we have a champion and an interim champion, we don't know what's going on. Khabib is the real champion. He's suspended until September, if I'm not mistaken. September. Poirier is now the interim champion. Conor McGregor is Conor McGregor. He always has a say-so in who he's fighting next. If Conor McGregor tells the UFC it's Khabib or bust, they ain't just gonna cave because he ain't the fucking owner of the UFC. He don't run shit like that. But Conor McGregor does still have a little bit of power in this game to the point, and he's a big draw. So even if it's not because Conor McGregor says so, the money says so. Conor McGregor is always in line for a title shot. So technically, you got two #1 contenders right now, right? Poirier and McGregor. Wait, Tony Ferguson. We got three #1 contenders. Tony Ferguson, 11-fight win streak, interim champion himself, but he got stripped. He was the interim champion, just like Dustin Poirier is the interim champion right now. But he got stripped. So we've got 4 guys in the mix at lightweight. That would be a badass tournament. A badass lightweight tournament. Poirier, Khabib, McGregor, and Ferguson. I mean, you could throw like Nate. Nah, we're not even going to bring him up. So we got 4 of the top lightweights in the world at the top right now. So that's why I bring up Poirier versus McGregor. Because Conor McGregor and Khabib are both serving suspensions, but Khabib's is longer. That is the crucial part of this whole Poirier versus McGregor. If it can happen, and I'm saying Poirier versus McGregor too. I gotta clarify that. They have already fought once. Conor McGregor won the first fight. But Max Holloway and Poirier had already fought. Poirier won the first fight there. But this could be another rematch at the top of the lightweight division for Dustin Poirier. Of course, the first fight happened at featherweight. Same with Max Holloway. Both fighters have grown tremendously. And this is different than Holloway versus Poirier. Oh my God. People were telling me that Holloway was about to give Poirier the dirty lickings. I still ain't over that. The dirty lickings. I said, yeah, I realize Max Holloway has grown leaps and bounds since their first fight. But you guys are acting like Dustin Poirier hasn't. You're acting like he don't train with the American top team. You act like he didn't just finish Gaethje, Pettis, Alvarez. People are acting like Dustin Poirier went on some fucking 10-fight losing streak since the first fight. No, he's got even better, as we saw in the fight. So both of them improved drastically. It wasn't just Holloway improved. Both of them did. Now, switch it to Poirier versus McGregor. Oh, I would easily argue that Dustin Poirier has improved more since the first fight. Dustin Poirier training with the American top team for 7 or 8 years at the highest level of the toughest division, fighting actively, versus Conor McGregor, who has opened up a whiskey business and switched to boxing and has got lawsuits going on with the guy who's phony smashed, got alleged sexual assaults over here. He's got probably problems at the home front because you got all of this going on. You still think you're fucking Mr. Jack Connor McTeller? Your whole world is fucked up right now, and it's not even close to focused on fighting compared to Dustin Poirier, who is probably the best lightweight in the world, not named Khabib Nurmagomedov. So, Poirier versus McGregor, I actually think the rematch might go different. I think Poirier might be, for sure, could beat McGregor. Now, could McGregor beat Poirier? Of course. He's beat him before for once. It was a long time ago. Don't put too much stock into it. But also, it's not the worst matchup. It's not like Dustin Poirier's going to come in here and try and fucking put you in half guard and smash you. I don't even want to pass because I don't want you to have a chance of getting up. I just want to smash you down here. Conor could land a shot because it's going to stay standing. He's got a better chance here. I still like Poirier, though, in the fight. But I think this fight's a possibility, too. McGregor's suspension is shorter than Khabib's. Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to be suspended until September or November. Conor's only going to be suspended until, like, July. Now, it would be up to Poirier, and if I'm him, it's an easy yes. You know, do you want the title shot with Khabib, or would you rather fight Conor for the interim, defend your interim in the meantime? I'll defend my interim belt so goddamn fast against Conor McGregor. For one, it's Conor McGregor. For two, I'm going to make more money fighting Conor in an interim fight than I probably would fighting Khabib in a real fight. For three, I already got a damn belt. It ain't like it looks different. Maybe if the UFC took Big Full-Time's advice and made the interim belt silver, that would matter. But I already got the belt on my shoulder. It's just as gold as Khabib's. Fuck yeah, I'll fight Conor. I'll fight Khabib if I win, sure, but I'm going to fight Conor first. If Conor wants smoke, Conor, you want your title back? You got to go through me. You beat me, you get the interim title, and you can fight Khabib. You don't beat me, I'm fighting Khabib. Unless Poirier just gets fucking royally screwed like Ferguson, except Ferguson got injured. So, if Poirier is healthy, which I don't see why he's not, it ain't like it was a back and forth war all night. He really put a beating on Max Holloway. It was a great fight, but a majority of the damage came from Poirier. Yeah, he took a little, but he could fight again in a couple months. If Poirier's ready to go again by July, June, McGregor versus Poirier 2 could happen. Winner fights Khabib. And so I think it's, even with politics and all of that, Poirier is in line for a McGregor fight. He had to go the toughest route possible. He had to go through a bullshit no contest with Eddie Alvarez, watch Eddie Alvarez get the Ultimate Fighter show and get rewarded with the Gaethje fight, while he had to fight Pettis and then fight Gaethje, then fight Alvarez, all to get to the interim title fight where he had to fight fucking Max Holloway. Then he beat Max Holloway. Oh my God. You guys remember when you were like younger, like fighting games like Mortal Kombat and shit? You had a rung. Like, you had to climb the rung, and the ultimate boss was at the top. That's like what fucking Dustin Poirier's doing. Like, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Here you go, babe. Babe. Alright, she don't hear me. Alright, this is what I'm talking about. Mortal Kombat ladder. This is what I'm talking about. Right here. You got a bigger one, Doug? Right here. You remember? Like, Khabib's at the top right here. This is the path Dustin Poirier is on, the middle path, the toughest one. First it was fucking Pettis, then Gaethje, then Alvarez, then Holloway. Now you might have to fight McGregor before you get to Khabib. Like, that's what Poirier is doing at IRL right now. The expert Mortal Kombat ladder. Like, expert. It's real for Dustin Poirier, man. But yeah, McGregor versus Poirier, I think, is a fight that is a very real possibility, and it would also be a great fight. Benji says, I've been done with him ever since the Dali. I only watched the last one because I like Khabib. Well, then you just don't watch J. Simple, really, says Cam Murphy. Benji says Khabib did nothing wrong. 7MC says, if they even offer Dustin a Conor fight, that's fucking disrespectful. No, come on, man. You're crazy. That's one of the... It depends on what you're in it for. I mean, for a fighter, if you're trying to set your family up, like, offering you a Conor fight is the best thing that could happen to you. Would you like, and let me put it this way, because realistically, any of these guys lose to Khabib, right? Would you rather go lose to Khabib or fight Conor McGregor and then lose to Khabib? And Dustin Poirier has a chance of beating Khabib. I'm just saying the odds are on Khabib's side. Let's say 75-25 Khabib, right? If we were going into this, you would probably predict Poirier loses to Khabib. In your head, Max Holloway, same deal. Tony Ferguson, even though it's a great matchup, Khabib's probably the favorite. And so with that being said, I mean, you can go fight Khabib, sure, if you want. Like, if that's what you're in it for, to fight for that #1 belt and just be the undisputed, like you don't want the interim, you want the undisputed. If that's what you're in it for, sure, wait on Khabib. But if you're in this as a prize fighter, you want to make the most money possible, set your family up in the best way possible, become a household name, become a legend in the sport, you want to fight McGregor. Clearly, if you beat Khabib, you could be a legend or whatever. But still, beating McGregor's a bigger deal. Even though he's lost, maybe not to a hardcore, traditional, karate style, hardcore, super duper fan. But if you're talking about realistically, the best fight for anybody is Conor McGregor. Lowest risk also, and highest reward. When you're at the top of the game, you want the low risk, high reward fights. It ain't about respect. It ain't about disrespectful. Offering Khabib a fight with Conor was disrespectful after he talked about making him humble and all of this shit. It ain't about respect. Once you get to the top, people are trying to set their family up and do what's best for themselves and their family. It ain't about no motherfucking traditional honor at the top of this game. And that's how I'm looking at it. If I'm Poirier, I don't give a fuck about none of what that... Man, I have been getting... People don't realize how tough it is. Some people, I know a lot of you do, but to be an MMA fighter, it's just leaps and bounds harder than any other sport. Like, even in football is dangerous, right? And that's why PEDs in football is a big deal too, concussions, all of that. But even in football, on some days you get motherfucking just catching drills. You know, depending on what your job is, or like in MMA, one day you're wrestling. That ain't taking it easy. Jiu-jitsu, joints cranked, wrestling, slammed on mats, kickboxing, kicked in the fucking head, boxing, punched in the lip. It's every single thing you do, even in the training, is dangerous. So fuck a respect. I need that bread. I need the cash. I need the Conor fight. Like, if you want to respect, ultimate respect, I'll fight Khabib in the fucking gym and see if I can beat him there. But, like, we're doing this for entertainment. If I'm doing this in the UFC and they're selling drinks and they're selling tickets and they're selling pay-per-views, at that point, respect is out the window. At that point, I need my money. I'll go to AKA, knock on the door, and challenge myself. Hey, Khabib, I respect you. You're the best. I just want to challenge myself on a respect tip. But I need that cash if we're fighting in the UFC. Most possible. Mr. Perfect 2005 says he would have basically cleaned out the division. Stamina MC says, nope. This is just your young head and the way you look at money fucking with your reasoning. Strongly disagree and hope Dustin does too. I mean, that's very, from the place I come from, 100%. I'm probably looking at it like a money thing, but that's because I ain't, never had it, which is kind of, I would imagine, a lot of fighters as well, with why I kind of relate to a lot of fighters, kind of like Dustin Poirier and the Jorge Masvidals of the world, like, so I'm looking at it from someone like a Jorge Masvidal perspective, Dustin Poirier, like someone that's fighting to make their life better, not somebody that's doing it to... What the fuck? Like, bro, if you just want to be the UFC champion, that ain't even respect to me. Like, if you want to be the best fighter, that's one thing. But if your goal is to be the UFC champion and you know that even the UFC champion isn't always the best fighter in the world because of the politics and all of this shit, like, I don't even care who's the #1 champion as much as I care as who's the best fighter. Like let me look at an example. who's a fighter, like when TJ Dillashaw was getting skipped over by Cody Garbrandt, and unfortunately he just failed his test for EPO, so it kind of taints this example. But let's say TJ, before we knew he was on EPO, right? And he was trying to get to the title shot. He was fighting number one contender after number one contender, and meanwhile, he was getting skipped. He lost a split decision, and he was trying to get back to the title. Cody Garbrandt got the title shot. Does that mean TJ Dillashaw is lesser of a fighter because Cody Garbrandt's the champion? No. If I'm Dustin Poirier, man, whoever is the technical on-paper champion, that ain't even, with the way the game is played, I mean, that ain't even, you don't even know what's, I mean, not only is there politics, what's going on with this USADA bullshit? You don't know who's clean, who's not. Like, if you just want to challenge yourself on some respect type shit, go to AKA, fight Khabib off camera if he's down for it, right? Like, not fight him, like, oh, fight to the death type shit. But, like, test yourself against him. That's, like, I hear where you're coming from on the honor and respect side, but with so much politics in the game, I don't give a damn about fighting in the entertainment industry, in the UFC business. Like, at that point, you're a brand, a business, you're trying to make money. I hear what you're saying. If you want to be the best fighter, you want to fight the best. But once you turn this into entertainment, I don't think that's what you're doing anymore. Clearly, there's some guys that want to show that they're the best in the world, but I don't even know if all of those guys are in the UFC. Some of them might not even make it to the UFC. Like, I don't know. I hear where you're coming from, Stamina MC, as far as, yeah, you would hope that everyone just wants to fight the best, but I think this is a business at this point, and a lot of these fighters specifically come from nothing, or they probably wouldn't be fighters. There's a select few fighters that actually come from money. A select few, and most of them aren't that good, and probably end up taking some sort of steroids because they know they're not that good, and because they were extremely privileged, and so they have to have something to beat the system. Anybody that's a real rough and tough fighter probably didn't come from much. You know what I'm saying? And so you're probably wanting to fight Conor McGregor. Cam Murphy says, unfortunately, Stam, I feel that's gone. It's about money. And if I was getting in cage, yeah, I want a lot and to get digged around. And also, think about the percentages. What are your chances of beating Khabib compared to your chances of beating Conor? You know, Khabib, I mean, you can look at all the top guys, unless they don't have a choice. The Floyd Mayweathers, like, and he's not the perfect best example, but Conor McGregor, like, whenever you get to the top of the game, people usually take the lowest risk, highest reward. That's just the name of the game. Like, I'm not writing the rules. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some of these news topics. We've already been going for like 40 minutes, so we're going to kind of speed through these. We've talked about a lot of them. I just want to touch on some of them. Conor McGregor did comment on the UFC 236 fight between Poirier and Holloway. He said that's how fighting should be. And, I mean, there's two ways I could go with that. Conor McGregor's got something to say about everything, especially if it's a big fight. Kind of a way to stay relevant. You know what I'm saying? If it's a lot of the times he'll say it, even if he's not giving props to the fight, he might diss the fight. Oh, that's a bullshit fight. But you'll notice he does it a lot of the times for the biggest fights. It's a great way to stay relevant. But looking at it a little deeper, the fact that Conor McGregor enjoyed this fight kind of goes to even increases the odds of a potential Poirier versus McGregor fight that I was just talking about. Conor McGregor is, he don't like to fight guys that he don't respect. If he don't respect you, you're not a real fighter, he's not going to give you that opportunity. So the fact that he respected and enjoyed this Holloway versus Poirier fight even gives Poirier a little bit bigger of a chance to fight McGregor. And keep in mind, and also Stamina MC, also just to the earlier point, keep in mind, I'm only saying Poirier versus McGregor if Khabib is suspended until August and Poirier is ready to fight before that. I'm not saying he should be looking to fight McGregor now and avoiding Khabib at all. I'm only saying if Khabib is suspended until August and you want to fight in July, and McGregor's not suspended anymore, and McGregor calls you out, fuck yes, I'm fighting McGregor in July, and then I'll worry about Khabib when he's got his shit together. Like Poirier said, get your shit together, young man. If you don't want to do your public service announcement, video, anti-bullying PSA so we can fight soon, I'm going to fight McGregor. I don't give a fuck what nobody's talking about. But yeah, I'm only saying if Khabib is suspended 3 months longer than McGregor, and McGregor is ready to fight. Because we know he wants Poirier's spot. Because also keep in mind, Stamina, keep in mind, if you don't take the McGregor fight and he's ready to fight, there's a good chance McGregor skips your ass and your interim belt. And then what? And then who's to blame? The UFC? Khabib? McGregor? Poirier's the odd man out. He could have just fought fucking McGregor himself. What if he waits until Khabib is unsuspended and something happens and McGregor steals your fight? And you could have fought McGregor 2 months earlier, set your family up for life, but instead you want to be honorable and wait for Khabib so he can skip your ass anyway. So he can go beat up McGregor for the shit that he said about his wife. Sorry, it ain't about you. It's about politics. It's about money. Boom, boom, boom. Poirier gets shit on. And he should have just, so there's so many reasons you should just take the fight if it's available. If they offer you McGregor, I don't give a damn who's the champion, who's suspended. If you send me a contract with McGregor to defend my interim title, I will sign that thing. It's got nothing to do with honor. It's got nothing to do with that. Reverb Twain says, I can't wait for Antonina Roxanne Saturday. You can't wait to see Roxanne get the happy warrior. I don't think she's going to be too happy after that fight, man. Cam Murphy says, like Tony, that was something else. Well, Tony, yeah, he got injured, but still, he was the interim champion, and he just won it. I mean, he healed up quick. He had a really fast recovery. 4 months? 4 to 5 months? So he got stripped in 4 or 5 months. Colby Covington, another guy, interim champion, skipped over. Literally. Poirier would have to wait by his phone on call. If Poirier wants to go on vacation for a week, they might say, oh, Khabib was ready to fight that week. We had to book a fight. Man, I'm not trying to wait around for Khabib and be on call. And if anything happens, if I sprain my toe in training, these motherfuckers might book another fight. Oh, I wasn't healthy. I had my toe needed to heal for 2 weeks. Colby Covington had to do some sinus shit and lost his title fight to Woodley. It don't matter who you are. You got to take whatever opportunity is given. When you're in the UFC and this is a business and you're making money to feed your family, honor goes out the window. If you want honor, meet me at American Top Team and challenge me there, and we can have some honorable scraps. But this is a business. Honor and disrespect. You're right. Not honor. Respect, honor. They're pretty similar. You and me see shit different. I don't gotta convince you my way is right. Well, for sure. Dustin Poirier says he'll beat Khabib Nurmagomedov with the right amount of crazy when asked about the potential matchup with Khabib, because that is the fight he's in line for. Even though I pointed out early in the show, there's actually 3 top contenders. There's McGregor, Ferguson, and Poirier, so any one of them could still get the fight. But they asked Dustin Poirier, how do you plan on beating Khabib? Because a lot of people see that fight for Khabib. Predominantly someone that uses their striking and toughness to get to the top of the game and be where they are today, versus somebody that's known as the most dominant grappler in the lightweight division's history, Khabib Nurmagomedov. So how do you plan on stopping getting mauled, which no one has been able to stop to date, which is why Khabib is undefeated? Poirier said, I got the right amount of crazy. And I like it. First, when they asked the question, I was like, I don't even know how he's about to answer this. But he had a good answer. He didn't only say he had the right amount of crazy, but he's also got the toughness. He said, my boxing coach told me coming into the 5th round when I was sitting on the stool, if you go out there and win this round, you're the world champ. He was talking about the Holloway fight. He said, when you're in a fight like that, you're getting hurt and you're hurting him. There's blood everywhere. It's up and down. As far as the Khabib fight, he said, there was talks about whoever won this fight was going to fight Khabib, but I didn't think that far. I knew in my hands, I had my hands full with Max. I'll start thinking about it and we'll see, but I don't know what's going to happen. He said he had the right amount of crazy. Where's the exact quote? And like his tough grit, determination, the right amount of crazy, self-belief, everything it takes to be a champion. I have that. And that was probably the best answer. I think I didn't even expect an answer that good when they said, so how do you plan on beating Khabib? Like, what can you do that no one else has been able to do? What do you have that no one else has? He said grit, determination, the right amount of crazy, self-belief, everything it takes to be a champion. Everything that got him past that Justin Gaethje fight specifically, and that got him to the second Eddie Alvarez fight. The first one ended in a no contest, a little controversial. That fight was crazy. But really the Justin Gaethje fight stands out for me. Whenever Dustin Poirier fought Justin Gaethje, I think that's when I seen Dustin Poirier 100% could be a champion. Because, man, I knew Dustin Poirier was tough. But to withstand all of the damage that Justin Gaethje puts out, and Justin Gaethje, he throws caution to the wind just so he can do damage and entertain the fans and inflict damage to his opponents. He throws caution to the wind and comes in like Edson Barboza has always been known as the most lethal leg kicker in the UFC. In my mind, and if you disagree, that's your prerogative. In my mind, Justin Gaethje took that crown. Not only when he beat him, and he actually just beat Edson, which is super cool because that was something I was looking for in that fight. But even without the win, when I look at Justin Gaethje's leg kicks, I say, fuck that. Like, you can be a fighter, and I wouldn't think you're a pussy. Well, it don't matter what I think, but I'm just saying, you know, like some fighters look at other fighters like pussies if you duck fights or whatever. If you had the choice to fight Justin Gaethje or one other guy in your division, I wouldn't be mad if you always chose the other guy. Like, Justin Gaethje should be one of the last fighters you want to fight unless you are a fucking special type of crazy. Justin Gaethje is a nightmare match. Great defensive wrestling, so he's probably going to keep his standing, and he's got wrestling. He could take you down. That probably... Man, a lot of these fighters would probably be better off if Justin Gaethje took them down and just fucking tried to win it with some takedowns and laying on them. Oh, no, that's not what he wants to do. He's coming to knock you out, break your body, and break your legs. So, when I saw Dustin Poirier fight Justin Gaethje and the leg kicks were just raining and Poirier looked like he could barely walk and he was still in it, just ripping combinations and actually ended up finishing Justin Gaethje, that moment was special. Like, finishing Pettis was like, yo, Pettis is a beast. He's real tough. He's hard to finish, so that was dope. Alvarez was after Gaethje, so we had already seen the Gaethje, but that Gaethje fight, man, I think was a precursor to the Max Holloway fight, really. Stem MC says, in other news, Masvidal just tweeted he's on his way to Joe Rogan. Could be vibes. Yeah, Masvidal, seen that he was going to be on the Rogan podcast like last week. I can't fucking wait for that. I'm going to try and be off in time for that because I know you guys probably want to listen to that too. But yeah, Masvidal on Rogan, it'd be dope if Uncle Joey was there too. You know, Joey Diaz. That'd be a good podcast. But he was there for the Yoel podcast. That's good enough. But I can't wait for that one. Hopefully they put enough. I'm sure they will. I really hope they do. Masvidal's not the type to bring up his own. Hey, remember when I was in Kimbo? Like, I used to fuck shit up. Now I'm backyard to bright. Like, he's not going to toot his own horn. So I really fucking hope there's somebody there to ask questions and are a little knowledgeable in his background to bring that up. Like, I'm sure Joe Rogan is going to have some of it. Like, he's got to ask him about the Kimbo days. I mean, I would like him to ask him about before that, like what got you into the Kimbo fights, and then how did you get into professional MMA from the Kimbo fights? Like, Jorge Masvidal's story, in my opinion, is my favorite story in MMA. As far as from backyard to bright lights, a legitimate movie could be made, and I think it's a real story. It's not some made up bullshit. So I'm really looking forward to that. Have you just speaking of the Joe Rogan podcast and like really good ones? It made me think of this one that as soon as I heard it became my instant favorite. And I'll ask you, Stamina. Have you heard and I'm asking everybody, the David Goggins on Joe Rogan? Do you know who David Goggins is? I listened to that fucking podcast probably 3 times in a row, and like that, listening to that podcast while working out is better than music to me. I was like, holy shit! Like I just listening to David Goggins shit, like that was more motivational than. That's a really good one if you've heard that one. I love that podcast. Like that's one of the first times I actually went out and said, "Who's David Goggins?" and like looked up another podcast with his ass. Former SEAL with the good story, says Hassan Mosmir. Yeah, that dude, he's a beast, man. I related to him a lot. So like that one was a really good one for me. But anyways, back to the show. But yeah, Poirier, Masvidal on Rogan's podcast is a big deal. Now, Poirier says he'll beat Khabib with the right amount of crazy. We will see. That is a good fight. And as of right now, that's the fight that's lined up. But McGregor could jump the line. UFC President Dana White wants champ Max Holloway back at featherweight following UFC 236. And this is interesting because you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Dana White was one of the ones that was talking about Max Holloway's weight when he had the scare. And, kind of like, I don't have his exact words, so I want to put words in his mouth. But from my recollection, Dana White was ones that kind of insinuated it could have been related to Max Holloway's weight cut. Now, there was also rumors that he could have got knocked out in sparring, which, after the Poirier fight, those rumors don't sound too crazy either, even though he's still tough. Like, Poirier don't knock you out. You probably didn't get knocked out in sparring. They would have really had to hit you, like, right in the sweet spot. But either way, there was a lot of speculation. Like, what was it? Like, we still don't know what happened with Max Holloway's health. He was pulled from his fight. The doctors couldn't, figure it out. It wasn't his weight cut. There was, remember the interview where Michael Bisping called him out and said he was, kind of slurring his words, and his face was kind of drooped. It looked like a little bit like that. A lot of people speculated it could have been his weight cut. But now, after that performance against Dustin Poirier, UFC President Dana White is saying that Max Holloway should go back to featherweight. And I would like to ask Max about that, or not me personally, but hear him asked about that. How about the weight cut going to 155 compared to 145? Does he think he can make 145 consistently in the future? That would be a good question. Does he think he can make 145 consistently in the future? If so, for sure, stay at 145. Everybody's trying to be a champ nowadays. It's not for everybody. It's not as easy as people make it look, because you got some beasts out there like Amanda Nunes and others. Daniel Cormier, Conor McGregor to an extent. But, hey, it can be tried. We've seen TJ Dillashaw try. He tried with EPO and couldn't do it. So Max Holloway, he can still reign at featherweight, defend his featherweight title. He already almost cleared out the division. There's still a big Frankie Edgar fight I would still personally love to see. Hanato Moicano's coming up. You got some featherweights that are still coming up and starting to shake things up down there. But yeah, Dana White said it's crazy. What I didn't expect is he looked small at 155. He said, so I look forward to him going back to 145. I took him straight from the octagon to the hospital. I told my guys I don't want him doing any interviews. Take him straight to the hospital. He's tough. He's awesome. But I'd like to see him at 145 again. Poirier looked much bigger than him, in my opinion. And, I don't know if Poirier looked much bigger than him because Holloway is a big boy, but it would be better for him to go to featherweight. So we'll move on from that. Israel Adesanya responds to John Jones. Uh-oh, here we go with this saga, you guys. I think it's time for an intermission. We're going to take a UFC Yankovic commercial break. And after this commercial break, we're going to come get back into these topics. We're going to talk about Jon Jones, Israel Adesanya, their whole back and forth. And I kind of want to talk about a potential fight between them, even though I don't think there's a whole lot there, because I don't know. I just don't know if it would ever happen because of the weight difference. But it's kind of crazy because people look at Israel Adesanya like the new Jon Jones, and then you got Jon Jones, who is Jon Jones. So that would be interesting, but I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Jon Jones would probably put Israel Adesanya in a body bag. Just I don't want to look too far into it. It would be interesting, but I ain't going to go too far. I think Jon Jones would put Israel Adesanya in a body bag. All right, here we go. Speaking of Jon Jones,
I done did a lot of drugs in my day, yeah I said it, but I'm still gonna kick your ass, Gustafson, I hope you ready. When I got into the crash, I ain't know the bitch was pregnant, but they treat me like a murderer, so motherfucker critic, bitch I'm ready to fight, and we can fight till the death. I'll hit your ass with the right, then with the right and the left, then kick you right in the chest, and have you fighting for breath, and then I'll turn the pressure up when you would try to get rest, leave you no time to adjust. Daniel, I'm coming for the title, so quit hiding your necks, because I'm right at your neck. Yeah, you can try and fight Lesnar, but when you fight him, what's next? That's right, I'm the best. At UFC 232, I'll get my title instead.
all right, you know what? That's the only Jon Jones song we're going to play right now. But let's look at this, man. Let's look at this. Jon Jones says he's done with Israel Adesanya after showing his stripes. Have you guys seen how this has been playing out on social media? Like, I didn't keep up with it from the beginning. Like, I don't see, oh my God, Jon Jones tweeted Israel Adesanya. Let me fucking bookmark this and keep up with it. I just thought it was funny in the end of the things, because I seen in the end it turned into like Israel Adesanya saying, I don't know why he's calling me out. He's way bigger than me. And Jon Jones is like, what? You called me out first. Like, what? No, you called me out. Like, now they're like blaming each other for calling each other out, because clearly if you're Jon Jones talking trash with a little middleweight, it doesn't look too good. You're one of the greatest fighters of all time. You don't need to be picking on some young interim champion up-and-comer. But I am curious. I wonder if any of the animosity has to do with the Jon Jones comparisons. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're Jon Jones, you've been suspended for a while, now you're back. But every time this kid's been fighting, you're hearing, oh, the new Jon Jones. Is this the new Jon Jones? Is this Jon Jones? The next Jon Jones? Jon Jones, like, the next Jon Jones? I'm still here. I haven't went anywhere. What are you talking about the next Jon Jones for? And so I do wonder if that had anything to do with some of Jon Jones' animosity toward Israel Adesanya. But as far as the fight is concerned, I mean, I think, I told you what I think would happen with Jon Jones. Adesanya's got to worry about Whitaker. I'm not going to lie. Adesanya versus Gastelum was an amazing fight. It might have been, it for sure was fight of the night until Poirier versus Holloway, so I don't even know what ended up going away with fight of the night. But I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that to be that close, honestly. I thought that was a bad matchup for Gastelum. He touched Israel Adesanya a lot more than I thought he was going to be able to. And so with that being said, I look at Robert Whitaker as the best middleweight in the world. So I was already looking kind of at the fight over the weekend, Gastelum versus Adesanya, and like, ooh, I don't know if he wants any of Robert Whitaker. You know what I'm saying? If you had that close of a fight with Kelvin Gastelum, I think Robert Whitaker might give you some dirty lickings. But Jon Jones, come the fuck on. Like, when you put it like that, Jon Jones, body bag. You know what I'm saying? This is a body bag for Jon Jones. Don't do him like that. But they had a little bit of a back and forth. It was interesting. It was, because it's kind of like young Jon Jones versus Old John Jones versus new John Jones. No, also, another interesting thing about that, like, if they fought, clearly they have their similarities. That would be interesting. But think about it. Adesanya just fought Silva, and that was already, like, you know, kind of fighting someone else he had a lot of similarities with. So that would be cool for that reason, too. Robert Whittaker talked about facing Israel Adesanya next. He said Israel Adesanya should be very worried. He thinks Israel Adesanya got exposed in this Kelvin Gastelum fight. Robert Whittaker said, if you watch the fight, you can see the holes were there from every fight before. They just got exposed bigger. There was a lot of holes, and there was a lot of things Gastelum exploited. There was a lot of things Gastelum could have exploited but couldn't because of his makeup, because of his striking style, because of his height, his reach. Gastelum was getting in. Gastelum was landing that left. I'll get in. I'll land my right. I'm much faster than Gastelum. I'm a better striker. I'm more comfortable there. I stay on the outside. I don't stay in that mid-ground. Israel should be very worried. I'm a very hard fight. Yo, let's get me pumped for this fight, low-key. Like, Robert Whittaker's my dude. Like, we go way back. We got a light-skinned connection. Light-skinned mobile players stand up. No, I'm just kidding. But, seriously, Robert Whittaker is the real deal. I mean, his path... He took the Dustin Poirier path at middleweight. He went up that fucking expert Mortal Kombat rung at middleweight. That's how Robert Whittaker got to where he's at. He had to fucking fight. I mean, oh my lord, if you guys don't know the story of the middleweight division when Robert Whittaker cracked through it, let me refresh your memory. He was on the outside of the top 5. It was like Robert Whittaker 7, Derek Brunson 6. The top 5 was star-studded and stacked. You had Michael Bisping up top holding shit up. You had George St. Pierre coming back, who was also kind of putting a monkey wrench in the game as far as getting a title shot. But then you had the fucking top 4 stud killers, Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman, Jacare, Yoel Romero. So the top 6 was locked and just loaded. You had Jacare, Romero, Weidman, Rockhold, GSP, Bisping. You had Whittaker and Brunson down here. But Whittaker was under Brunson because Brunson was on a 5-fight knockout streak. 6 wins, 5 of those first-round knockouts. So Brunson had earned his way to fight somebody in the top 5, you would think. But he ended up having to fight Robert Whittaker because the top 5 was already so stacked. Like 3 of them were waiting on title shots. GSP, you know, Michael Bisping is injured. So they could only fight each other down there. Derek Brunson goes into the fight with Robert Whittaker. You got to think this is probably on his mind. Man, we can't get a fight in the top 5. So maybe if I get another first-round knockout, that would have put Derek Brunson at 6 first-round knockouts in a row. Maybe he can crack that top 5. Because there ain't no other way to get out there unless you're doing something spectacular. So Robert Whittaker ends up beating Derek Brunson in that fight. Derek Brunson went for the first round KO. I think he got a little overzealous in that fight. Either way, Robert Whittaker ended up knocking out Derek Brunson. He earns a fight with Jacare now. That gets him into the top 5. He has to fight Jacare. Robert Whittaker versus Jacare is probably the best I've ever seen almost anybody look against Jacare. Robert Whittaker had one of the best performances against Jacare I've ever seen any. Jacare is still a monster. You just seen Jacare fight to a split decision with Kelvin Gastelum at like fucking 40 years old. So when he fought Robert Whittaker, he was a couple years younger and is still in the top 5 already. Like Jacare's been a killer. So Whittaker has an amazing performance against Jacare where he's throwing him off of his back when Jacare goes for the takedowns and just outstriking him when they're on the feet. Jacare goes for a takedown. Whittaker shrugs him off and just phenomenal performance. Got to fight Yoel in an interim title fight. Fucking injures his leg in the first round. Somehow makes it 5 rounds. Wins the fight still on an injured leg against Yoel in an interim title fight. So you'd think, oh man, after going through all of that, he's about to get to fight Bisping or GSP. It's all going to be worth it. GSP beats Bisping, vacates the title. You don't get a money fight. You got to fight Yoel Romero again. What? Got to fight fucking Yoel Romero a second time. This fucking stud beats him again. That's why Robert Whittaker is so fucking injured right now. He's having to go through the fire to get to the title. Like, yeah, you're going to have some injuries if you've got to fucking beat all of these studs after stud. No easy fights, no days off. So Whittaker is a beast. So, Adesanya, yeah, this is definitely a hard fight. I think Robert Whittaker's putting it lightly when he says, I'm a very hard fight. That's putting it lightly. Whittaker is a savage. And Israel Adesanya is not untouchable. He's not. He's not on the feet. And that's where his specialty. He's not untouchable on the feet. And his ground game, we've seen a little bit of it, right? We've seen him attempt a little bit of a triangle. We've seen a little bit of a scramble down there. But to beat the middleweight champ Robert Whittaker, you better hope he's still banged up. But if he's a 100% healthy Robert Whittaker, I don't see Adesanya having much of a chance. Look what Muay Thai training in Thailand did for Khalil. Oh my God! Speaking of Khalil Roundtree, I almost forgot about that because Khalil Roundtree came out there looking like John fucking Jones or something. He putting it on Eric Anders. What a performance there, too. Still bummed Gastelum versus Whittaker fell through, says Benji. Yeah, man, that would have been a good fight. And, Gastelum does touch everybody, though, Dutch-style Black Clouds. That is a point. KG does touch everybody. He does, but still. You could say that about Whittaker and what he said about the makeup. He said he believes he's a better striker than Gastelum, and it was obvious the reach advantage there. Kelvin Gastelum touches everybody, but if there's one person you expected him to not touch up, it was probably Adesanya. Because for one, the reach advantage was huge for Adesanya, and he's a striking specialist. So if there was one guy you expected KG to not touch up, it might have been Adesanya. And Adesanya still got touched up. Masvidal and Joey Diaz will be on Rogan. Oh my God, Joey Diaz is going to be on there, dude. I fucking said they gotta bring Joey Diaz. I gotta watch that shit live. We need to do like a Joe Rogan podcast companion. We need to do like a Joe Rogan podcast companion. All right, we gotta speed through the show. Yoel Romero to Israel Adesanya. See you soon, boy. I don't have a clue how Yoel Romero plans on fighting Israel Adesanya. You already fought Whittaker twice. So unless you plan on Adesanya beating Whittaker and then you fighting him, I don't have a clue how Yoel Romero plans on fighting Adesanya. He might be using the Conor McGregor's tactic of clout chasing and staying relevant here because I don't have a clue. I just don't see how this fight happens unless Whittaker gets injured again, and then he'd probably get stripped because he's so unhealthy at this point. But then you would need someone else to fight Adesanya, but heaven forbid that. I would love to see Whittaker fight. I really hope Whittaker gets healthy. If he got stripped, that would be a travesty. He's so fucking good. But with that being said, Yoel Romero already fought for an interim title. He fought for the title. He's almost had damn near 3 title fights. He got a title fight like off of a loss. Like, I don't see him fighting Israel Adesanya anytime soon. Jacare, I think, has a lot more claim to the title right now than Yoel, unless, of course, he loses to Jack Hermanson, which is possible. Dana White shocked that USADA doesn't test for EPO every single time. We talked about that a little in the beginning of the show, so I'm not going to go over that too much. But yeah, I that is a shocker, and it doesn't make much sense. Like, what? You're telling me TJ had TJ fought in December with EPO in his system, and you guys didn't have that test? Like, they said they went back to TJ's December test, and it had EPO in there. What? What the fuck? You can't take caffeine pills, but EPO, you're in the clear. What the fuck? Don't go get Blue Rhino dick pills from the gas station. Dude. USADA's tests are so fucking good, you can have pulsing picos in your system because the trace amount is like fucking 5,005 grains of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. You're testing for grains of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and in all of that testing, you can't fucking find EPO. What? You got fucking champions out here fighting with EPO in their system, USADA? And they said they're still the best. USADA still has better tests than WADA and whoever else. So if I was in Bellator, I would be EPO'd the fuck up. You know why? Because USADA couldn't even catch that shit. So you know these other ones ain't. USADA is the cream of the crop. So anywhere that's not using USADA, you can just use EPO? What the? Guys, I don't understand this shit. How does Dana not know? No one knows? What? Come on, man. They just tell us whatever the fuck they want to because this don't make no damn sense. I'm telling you, and okay, it would make a lot more sense if there was new tests that could detect microdosing of EPO, which is what we had a source tell us, which would make a lot of sense. But if that's the case, then we should expect to see a lot of more fighters fall, which would... We'll see. We will see, guys. Henry Cejudo says he'll never fight TJ Dillashaw again. I want no part of him. He doesn't want to fight a cheater. I seen somebody call out some fighters. They were like, it's crazy. There's a lot of people calling out TJ Dillashaw right now that take EPO. Like, you know? But it is what it is. If you don't get caught, you don't get caught. Maybe they're better. Maybe they're better, I guess. But, I mean, if you're taking this shit in MMA, it's trash, man. This shit is trash. I flip-flop on this. Like, there's some days where I just feel like everybody's fucking cheating. But that's not fair to the people that are not cheating. But if you're not cheating in this sport, it really seems, man, if you don't have the money to take steroids, and that sounds so crazy, but if you don't have the money, I don't know. I was going to say, if you don't have the money to take steroids, you probably shouldn't even be in this sport. Politics are never going to be on your side anyway. I don't know. That's just such an interesting topic. That's another topic for another day, man. As far as what do you do about this? I mean, USADA's the best of the best, and they're just now finding out TJ Dillashaw's on EPO. That is asinine. UFC on ESPN Plus 9's Kevin Lee wants to make Rafael Dos Anjos fight at 165 pounds. Now, that would be interesting. Like, what if they, because right now it's at 170, but what if they took the initiative and they both showed up at 165-pound catch weight? I mean, would that make the UFC open up a new division? No, it wouldn't make them. But it would be interesting. It would make people, that conversation grow. It would make people look at that like, hey, and what if they had a really good fight? Like, if RDA and Kevin Lee both weighed in at 165 and then came out here and just had like a fight of the night, it would be hard to deny them. And they came out here and said, you like that performance? We need a 165 division. That would be some next level shit. Like, okay, Dana White's super reluctant on opening up this division. RDA, look, respect. We're fighting each other. I plan on kicking your ass. I know you plan on kicking my ass. How about we both show up at 165 pounds? Let's do it. And if he don't want to, he don't want to. We'll both do 170. But if they both showed up at 165, I think that would be pretty fucking powerful. I think that would actually, and then they had a really good fight. I think that'd be powerful. We will see, though. Dana White, I did just see, he was talking with the Schmo, and the Schmo was asking him about the 165-pound division, and Dana White is just as, reluctant as ever. Nah, it's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. And honestly, his reasoning, in my opinion, is straight bullshit. The reason he's saying is because it'll make the welterweight and lightweight division worse. They would still be way better than every other division. Like, there are guys that are unranked at lightweight and welterweight that are fucking killers. The Islam Makhachevs and shit. Like, there are Bilal Muhammad's, the Vicente Luques, Dude, I could go on and on and on. Randy Brown's, the Nico Prices. Like, there's really good fighters that are unranked, and they're unranked, but they're actually sick. Like, the guys I named at the beginning especially, they could be ranked easily. So, if Kevin Lee and RDA move from 170 to 165, okay, now Bilal Muhammad moves up in the rankings. That's not taking much away from it because he's still a fucking killer. You still got Islam Makhachev is now moved up in the rankings. Oh, you still got a stacked division. You take that division, and it's probably still better than, I mean, overall, in totality, your flyweight, your bantamweight, your light heavyweight, the heavyweight. Like, if there's any case to make a new division, it's 165. A lot of fighters that would fit that bill. Kevin Lee said, maybe it might be a little backroom deal we got on there. He said, RDA's he don't really give you too much to go off of, and he really don't give you too much back and forth. So, I'll ask him and see what he thinks about it. If he's down with it, I'd be down. I'd cut an extra little 5 pounds for that, make a statement, make some noise. It's in our contract. We ain't got to, but I like to push some buttons. Yeah, that would definitely push some buttons. That would be fucking a powerful move. Whoever thought of that, that's a good-ass idea. All right, it is almost time to end the show. We're getting into the unfortunate news of the evening. I don't like bringing this shit up, but I can't bring it up. You got to. For one, I brought it up for Conor McGregor. You can't just bring it up for someone, and Nick Diaz and guys like that. So it is something that needs brought up, and, hopefully the accusations are false, just because you never want to see these type of accusations anytime, but especially when it's with like an MMA fighter, since we cover that sport and we're fans of that sport, and if it involves the mother of someone's children and shit like that. But it is news, therefore we will cover it briefly. BJ Penn has been accused of sexual assault and violence by the mother of his children. This could have his fight in jeopardy. He's supposed to be fighting Clay Guida at UFC 237. But right now it is, of course, just accusations. But unfortunately, there have been similar accusations in the past. I mean, when I was just looking this up, other stuff popped up, of course, from the past. But those charges were dropped. With that being said, according to a protective order obtained by MMA junkie Sheilin UI, claims Penn is a drug addict that physically and sexually abused her and threatened to kill her multiple times over the years. The order includes a handwritten statement laying out specific incidents of abusive behavior, including allegations he tried to pressure her into having sex with other men and once got cocaine on my oldest daughter. So I honestly never seen that side of BJ Penn. He never ever seemed like a fucking cokehead, drug addict, ever. But also in the allegations, she said that he used fight camps to try and get clean. So it would make sense. You're clean for your fight camp. When we see you, we would never see that side of you because people would sober up for their fight camps and stuff like that. So, unfortunate situation. BJ Penn was set to fight UFC 237 on May 11th against Clay Guida. But the last time this happened, the UFC put his return on hold while they investigated the incident. But that was unfortunate because now that incident, the charges got dropped because insufficient evidence, right? But wait, I just thought about something. That reminds me of Greg Hardy. Because the charges ended up ultimately being dropped because the chick didn't go to court or whatever, right? People still treat him like he is fucking guiltier than you could be. Like, yeah, but, the only reason the charges were dropped was because of this, but it still happened, and it's like, it was a one-time thing. The way that I've seen some people in the MMA world, when Greg Hardy was announced to come over to the sport of MMA and signed with the UFC, the way that they fucking, shamed the thought of him being an MMA fighter, it rubbed me the wrong way from the very beginning. I mean, there was guys saying, I don't like just blasting people's name out there, but it's just the name I remember. And I thought I knew him from NFL or something, but there's a dude named Jay Glazer. I think he's an MMA coach, media personality, something like that. I just remember him specifically saying, like, anybody that trains, even wants to train with this guy or allows him into their gym should, like, feel bad about it. Like, he was kind of like shaming anybody that would even open their doors to allow him to train mixed martial arts because of his history. And with that being said, I whenever there's anything like this in MMA, I don't really ever hear a lot of people speaking up about it. You know, if it's our own, I feel like people kind of just look past it. But when it comes to someone like Greg Hardy, you want to put that shit on Front Street. I say that because we've had just reported incidents, you know, of names I mentioned before. And I don't really see the same outrage as it was with Greg Hardy. That's another topic for another day. But with that being said, you know, BJ Penn, the last time the charges were dropped, and I bring that up because his fight got put on hold. So in the court of public opinion, you automatically become guilty, right? Like, oh shit, BJ Penn just got charged with this. The UFC took his fight away, so he must be blah, blah, blah. You know, he already got punished. He lost his fight. And really, they just put his fight on hold. The charges were dropped, but that's never going to get reported as widespread. So it's, you know, and if it does come out that his charges get dropped here, you can believe I'll report that. I always, you know, if I reported on Nick Diaz when the allegations happened, I reported when his name got cleared. But everyone doesn't always take that approach. And so with that being said, like, I feel like it's almost a shitty situation to even bring up the first one if the charges were dropped. But hey, that's the world we're in, and it's an unfortunate situation. If nothing comes of it, we'll be seeing BJ Penn fight Clay Guida at UFC 237, which would be a good fight. BJ Penn hasn't won a fight since probably 2013. He just lost to Ryan Hall. I mean, this dude needs a win. So this don't help that at all. You know, so if his fight still happens, we'll see. But that's just some news that came up. The thing with Greg Hardy, Stamina MC says, is that he did it, wasn't put through the legal system for it, and also doesn't appear to be remorseful. I don't know about doesn't appear to be remorseful. I mean, like, I hear what you're saying, but I'll just counter it a little bit. You said it's that he did it, and I say that about, well, allegedly. Now, this was the alleged things that happened with BJ Penn. Now, the charges were dropped. This is what allegedly happened. And like I said, I'll show you that the charges were dropped for insufficient evidence. But this says MMA Junkie obtained a copy on October 2018 of a restraining order filed against BJ Penn. Is this the first one? Yeah, still set to fight at UFC 237. One of them happened in 2016. BJ Penn cleared of sexual assault after charges get tossed for insufficient evidence. Well, I looked up what the original charges was. It says Penn maintained his innocence since day one and insisted that his accuser, Pedro Alex Carrasco, was fired from his webmaster position for unethical behavior and looking for payback as well as a payout by drumming up tales of perversion and cocaine abuse. So, 2 years ago, and the charges were dropped, BJ Penn had been accused by this Pedro Alex Carrasco. Pedro Alex Carrasco said that BJ Penn like forced himself on Pedro's girlfriend at the time. BJ Penn defended himself by saying, "Look, I just fired this guy. He's coming after me. You know, it's like some revenge type shit." But I just found it interesting that he drummed up tales of perversion and cocaine abuse. Flash forward 2 years later to today, and his significant other is talking about alleged cocaine abuse and perversion. So it reigns similar. Now, for the first incident, maybe it was because, you know, maybe people will change their tune now because this just happened recently, the second incident. And, you know, maybe people just didn't want to believe the first incident. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the Greg Hardy doesn't appear to be remorseful. That's another one I would kind of say, like, after a certain point of, after you're asked 1,000 times, it's probably hard to look remorseful in the 1,000th interview. Like, even if you do have remorse and you've showed remorse and you've shown, apologized to the victim and you've said what you had to say about it and you've explained your side of the story and you still get asked 10 million more times, it's like, how do you stay remorseful for like 7 years straight? Like, how am I remorseful after I've already moved past it and you're still asking me about it 5 years later? Like, unless it was an interview right after and he wasn't remorseful, something like that. Like, right after the incident, he was like, yeah, fuck that. Of course whatever. But, that's another thing to argue. Of course, not, says Cam Murphy. They only like reporting the shit stuff and fake news. Stamina MC says, that's just what I've picked up. I don't have a feeling about it personally. Cam Murphy says, BJ's too old. I don't think he should still be fighting. But didn't his wife get a restraining order against him, arrested for battery? I mean, that is what some of the accusations are of physical sexual violence leveled at him by an ex are part of a highly contested child custody case. And that's another incident, man. If you're fighting for custody, and you know what's crazy, and it's almost like down too far to go, like away from what's on paper, but if you are going through a highly contested custody case, man, those shits can get dark sometime. Like, people will drum shit up when it comes to custody of the kids. People will make shit up and lie on the other parent so they can get the kids. And so if this is part of a highly contested custody case, you do have to look at it with a side eye, kind of, because you never know the truth in situations like this. And let's say you're fighting for custody and you look up BJ Penn, and the first thing you find is this dude who wanted revenge on BJ Penn. And so this dude made up some shit but didn't have evidence, which is why the charges got dropped. So BJ Penn was innocent the first time. Charges were dropped. And so now you look up BJ Penn, and since this was in Google, you make up a story to help get your kids, and you say cocaine and sex abuse. Oh, now somebody already lied in the past and said that shit. So it's a possible both of these motherfuckers were lying on BJ Penn. That's a real possibility. The first dude could have wanted revenge because BJ Penn fired him. And so he made this shit up. And now this chick wants custody of her kids. And so she's going to make the same lie to get the kids. That could really be happening. And so that's why if it does come out BJ Penn is cleared up of this shit like he was the first time, I will definitely report that, because this is an unfortunate situation. And especially if you've got a fight coming up and you fucking need a win. Like, this dude's lost like 7 fights in a row, and now he's got to deal with this coming up to a fight. But yeah, with that being said, you guys, that's about it for today's show. I'm going to upload this on the main channel, of course, but I do want to thank you guys for coming through and chilling with me live. Cam Murphy, Dutch Style Black Cloud, Stamina MC, of course, Mr. Perfect 2005. I'm him, my boy, 247. Reverb Twang, what's going on? L42 says the 165 division doesn't have to be permanent. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about permanent. I don't know about temporary divisions. But I do like that Kevin Lee idea. With that being said, Jorge Masvidal and Joey Diaz will be on the Joe Rogan podcast. That is a must-watch right there. So with that being said, that's something you guys can tune into after the show is over. I'm about to close it out. I'm going to upload this on the main channel, Full-Time MMA, but if you want to watch these live, make sure you subscribe to our second channel, which is also where we've been doing our fight companions, UFC Yankovic. It is what it is. Let the Full-Time family know what you